So I must tell you, Chris, that as you did the storytelling, I was around the dinner table, the in the restaurant. I was kind of dreaming all these images. So it was a brilliant storytelling of the dinner itself. So it was such a brilliant thing. Thanks a lot for putting the story so beautifully. My next question to you, Chris, is what would be the advice that you would give to an 18-year-old in an university today?
So, what I would tell to an 18-year-old in that university is I would give that 18-year-old advice for both their time at the university as well as for afterwards, because now is the time that they could do a lot of things. So, in their time at the university, I would advise them to make sure that they try as many different things as they can, given the constraints, whether it's financial or the curriculum that they have to take. Because what I would tell them is there will never be an easier time for you to try new things, to experience new things. Everyone believes that this is the reason why you're at college, and all of these opportunities are being served up to you on a silver platter. It will never be as easy to meet remarkable people. It will never be as easy to try a new activity. And you should take full advantage of that. Don't just spend all your time taking classes doing problem sets. Yes, that's important, but you can do that on your own if you really need to. And part of that, what goes hand in hand with that, and again, this may or may not be true in all countries, but in the United States, one of the things that students completely fail to take advantage of for the most part is the fact that their professors have office hours. Now, this is a remarkable thing. These professors, these folks who at Stanford University are the leading figures in their industries, are forced to sit in a room for a couple of hours a week, and whatever students show up get to talk with them. And what I would tell people is in many cases, depending on which department, like in my case, in the engineering department, these are people who would be charging a corporation thousands of dollars for that time. And you, because you've paid the cover charge of your tuition, get to use it as much as you want for free, as long as no one else is there. And very few students take advantage of this. And so, one of the reasons why I developed these relationships with advisors like David Kelly and John Lara, and relationships with other professors that I actually studied with, is because I would go to office hours. And I didn't go to office hours because I had a whole bunch of questions, although I would bring questions with me. I went to office hours because it was a chance to get to know them. And I got to know them as human beings in a way that most students don't. Students just are like, oh, professors, godlike figures. I'm like, no, they're just people like you and I. And I want to learn more about them and get to know them and develop a relationship with them. And that's something that I was able to do that most other people don't do as an undergrad. So I strongly urge you to do that. The last thing I would say is there are two things that you should be doing to really invest in yourself. And those two things are, first of all, to begin investing financially. At the age of 18, if you can begin investing, by the time you reach retirement age, whatever tiny amount you've set aside will have compounded to an enormous level. And it's a lot easier to get started early and develop the habit. And as I mentioned, money, while it is not the most important thing in the world, is still really handy to have. And you should probably make sure you set yourself on the path to having it. The second thing, and this is advice that I give to people all the time, is try to meet as many smart and interesting people as you can, and then also stay in touch with them. And many people forget that second part. Right? You need to stay in touch with folks, and even today, people will say, "Chris, how do you know so many famous, interesting people?" And I say, "Well, because I got to know a lot of unfamous, interesting people, and I stayed in touch with them, and they later became famous and important and prominent over the years." So, just to give you an example, some of the classmates that I went to school with who are doing interesting things today, maybe a month or two ago, I had lunch with my old classmate from elementary school, Masi Oka, who went on to become a very famous actor. He was in the television series Heroes in the last decade. Now he's on the production side. He's actually bringing the movie Akira. He's Japanese American, so he brings Japanese IP to the United States. Akira being one of the most famous manga and then animated programs ever, and he's going to bring a live action version of it to the United States. Well, he's doing fascinating things in Hollywood. One of my friends from Stanford, Michael Green, is also involved in Hollywood. He was the screenwriter for Logan, right? The Wolverine movie. He's nominated for an Academy Award, is involved in all these other fascinating things over the years. Also, Green Lantern. We don't mention that as much. But, these are all people where it's, if I set out, I would like to go ahead and meet a famous Academy Award nominated screenwriter, or I would like to go and meet the producer of Akira. Well, that would be very difficult. But if I knew them when they were 7 years old or 18 years old, it's a lot easier. And if you are in an elite educational institution, a Stanford, an IIT, or something like that, the chances that people are going to go on to become enormously successful is pretty high. And by the way, you won't necessarily be able to predict who's going to be the most successful and what they're going to be successful in. But if you stay in touch with smart and interesting people, good things will happen.